morning world. This is Dr. Rico Short, the root canal specialist to the stars, the grace life teacher, the inspirational motivator for you on this terrific Tuesday. Man, do I have a word for you today. Man, this is going to bless your socks inside out, and they're going to feel better than they were on your feet inside in, man. I'm telling you. So today on this terrific Tuesday, I want to talk to you about relational intelligence. Relational intelligence. How do you relate and how do you attract the opposite sex? And this is something that a lot of people aren't talking about, but it's so vital to success in life, because who you pick as your spouse will determine you getting to your divine destiny on earth. And a lot of times, man, many people are picking spouse based on superficial things. They go on Instagram and looking and see, okay, well, which one of these people look the best? Which one of them have the finest body? Which one of them has the most outward beauty? But beloved, let me tell you something, man. That outward beauty will fade away. It's the inward beauty that counts. And again, I'm not saying that you can't find your wife on Instagram. I'm not saying you can't find your husband on Snapchat or on a dating site. You can. But remember, that's just an initial feeling. That's not the whole root of the matter. See, in order to understand somebody, you have to spend time with them. You have to date them. You have to court them, as my grandmother used to say. You have to know who they are. Because some of you guys might be sleeping with the enemy. Ooh, that's a word for somebody. Some of you guys might be sleeping with the enemy. In other words, the sex is good, but relationship is terrible. Yeah, I'm saying that because you might not hear that in the church. I got to give it to you raw, real, and uncut, like without a rubber on. That's right. Some of you guys are so heavily involved in a sexual relationship with somebody, but you really don't know who they are. So you are really what I call sleeping with the enemy. You're going to get your heart broken. So you need to step back, pump the brakes, and see who you're dealing with. Because unless you know who you're dealing with, you could be sleeping with the enemy. This is relational intelligence I'm talking about this morning. And you might not hear this behind a pulpit. You may not hear your parents talk about it. But it's real. It's real. And then some people are jumping from relationship to relationship because they're looking for love in all the wrong places. Because you're hurt. And you're trying to find somebody to fill that void, to fill that pain. And you think sex is going to do it, and it's not. It's like being on a drug and you're still trying to look for that original high. You're not going to get that. See, God didn't call us just to have sex with somebody. He called us to have a relationship, an intimacy relationship with someone. But first of all, you have to understand who you are. You have to step back from relationships and ask God to show you who you are, because if you don't, you're going to be picking the same people with the same problems you got, and that's a recipe for disaster. If you pick people with the same problems and issues that you have, that's a recipe for disaster, beloved. So you got to step back and say, okay, God, I can't fix myself. I depend on you to fix me, because unless you fix me, I'm not going to be everything you call for me to be for somebody else. And I'm telling you from experience, man, you know, when I dated my wife, I knew my wife was the right one, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature. I still wanted to, you know, dip and dab and hang out in the clubs and the strip clubs and the clubs this and clubs that, and hang out with my boys and drink and do everything else. But I wanted to try to hold her close to me because I knew she was going to be the one. So I'm like, man, when I'm mature enough, I'm going to marry her. I'm going to put a ring on it, like Beyonce says. But guess what? 1 year passed, 2 year passed, 3 year passed, man, and she left my butt. She said, you know what? You're not ready. And I knew I wasn't ready, so I had to be man enough to let her go. And when I let her go, man, I was able to see who I was, and I had to let God deal with me as an individual, and likewise with her, because she was looking for me to fulfill a void that I couldn't fill at the time. So she got along with Jesus, and I got along with Jesus, and about 2 years later, God supernaturally brought us back together. You want me to tell you how? Check this out. Man, we were at odds with one another. Our relationships were up and down, and we were just like, forget it. I don't want to see you, and don't you see me. And there was one day, man, you probably remember the computer company called CompuServe. Well, back when we were dating, and I had just graduated from dental school, and she was just getting ready to get into hygiene school, I had financed her a computer. And so one day, all of a sudden, I don't know why, years later, that they forgot to give me a rebate, because if you finance so much, you get a $400 rebate. So years later, I got a $400 rebate that was actually in her name, but I was going to keep it and cash it, because I'm like, man, she's not going to want to talk to me, and this thing is over. So I talked to my mom about it, and she said, Rico, you need to do the right thing. I said, what's the right thing? He said, you need to give her money. I said, well, she don't want to talk to me, and I can't stand her guts, and she can't stand my guts, and this and that. And she said, well, you know what? You need to reach out to her and tell her that you have this money and you want to give it to her. So I decided, okay, well, I'll do that. So I texted her and reached out to her, and she was like, well, what do you want? You know, don't call me, don't talk to me. I want to hear from you. And I said, I get it. I understand. I said, but I have this money that belongs to you. I said, why don't we meet in just a central location? I can give you this money that belongs to you. And she agreed. And when I walked in there, I remember it was at Cafe in the Mezzo in Buckhead, and I had the check. When she walked in, man, there was something that came over me that I can't even describe. Something that was like, you know what? This is something special. I couldn't put my finger on it. So I gave her the money, and I told her, I said, you know what, Angela, I've changed. And she was like, man, you ain't changed. I said, I've changed. You know what she said? Let me see the evidence. Ooh, evidence. So if you want to see somebody change, man, don't take their word. They got to give you the evidence. I'm not talking about a one-time evidence. I'm talking about over a period of time. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's just be friends. Period. No holding hands, no nothing. Let's just be friends. She's like, okay, well, all right, I'll give you an opportunity. So every now and again, we would go out for ice cream, and we would go to a movie. We would hang out, nothing too tight or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, I was going to a church way out in Stone Mountain. Friends invited me to that church years ago, and I decided I'd go to that church. And I was praying. I'm like, Lord, I have to give up this life, man. This life that I'm living, man, is not what you call me to be. You know, I'm not Rico Suave anymore. I'm not the ladies' man. I'm not this and that. I just want to be who you call me to be. And I know I can't be that by, you know, trying to be with every woman that I think that's attractive. That's not going to work. So after I prayed, I looked up, and God was like, let's look behind you. And behind me, guess who was sitting there? It was Angela. I'm like, oh, man. Lord, you talking about a ram in the bush? You talking about a Boaz finding a Ruth? And I'm like, Lord, how are you going to put this together? And over a period of time, man, he continued to put us together in unique situations. And, you know, this is nothing sexual or anything like that, man. We really got to know who we were. And I realized that, man, this was not a woman that was beautiful just on the outside, man. She was beautiful on the inside. And not only that, she was willing to work and work hard. You know how Ruth went and gleaned over the fields, and she was willing to work hard to help take care of herself and Naomi? That's what she did. So me, I consider myself a type of Boaz. I wanted to find somebody like a Ruth. Somebody that was willing to work, somebody that was willing to have compassion on other people, somebody that was willing to help build something special together. And so God put on my heart, he said, this is the one. So about a year later, I proposed to her, believe it or not, in front of Baskin Robbins because she was my Proverbs 31 and she had every flavor that I love. So anyway, and not only that, ice cream is her favorite treat. Man, she loved mint chocolate chip ice cream and chocolate, and I can't stand it. I guess that's why God put opposites together, opposite attract. Man, I really don't even like ice cream personally. I digress a little bit. But anyway, man. So today, man, we've been together now. We've been married now for almost 17 years. We've had hills, we had valleys. We've learned a lot from each other. And we're continuing to learn each other, man. And we are continuing to allow our relationship to mature like fine wine, or mature like that Louis the 18th cognac that's $7,000 and $400 just for 4 ounces, man. And our relationship is getting better and better because we're putting the work in it. In fact, on Friday nights, man, I don't do anything else but have a date night with her. Because we have to keep our relationship fresh, man. We have to keep it alive. Because our kids are looking. I have 2 daughters and they want to be able to say, okay, how do I pick a husband? Do I pick a husband based on how much money he has? Is he balling out of control? Or do I pick a husband based on how he treats my mother? And that's vital, man. Because you're setting an example. If you have children, and if you're married, you're setting an example for the type of spouse that they will pick. This is relational intelligence I'm talking about today. So I hope and pray that, man, as you are looking, if you're single, if you're looking for a spouse, I ask you to spend time with God for yourself so God can fill the voids that you have, so that when you meet that right person, that Ruth or that Boaz, you can add to what they have, not take away. All right. Love you guys. This is Dr. Rico Short, the root canal specialist to the stars, the grace life teacher, sowing into your life so that you can have a divine future and a destination that God wants you to have on this earth. Love y'all. Grace life. Peace.